Hello friends, I'll be taking you to the future, next 30 years, how the problems are going to be created because of increased density of population, lot of influx of migration from the rural areas to the urban areas. So what they will lead to and how we can find solution to it. So these are all futuristic ideas. So even if you agree with me, it's fine. If you don't agree with me, then also it's fine, because nothing is constructed as yet. Now this is a graph which shows how the migration is going to be till the year of 2050. Now we all, as per the study, we have come to know that approximately around 70% of the population in the world will be migrating towards the urban centers. So you can imagine the kind of density the urban centers will be having throughout the world, what kind of chaos could be created. Now, at the moment, these are the pictures of present today. So what is going to happen after 30 years when 70% of the world population is going to be living in urban centers? And we have discussed so many times that the land is limited. There is no scope for expansion. So how to do it? So now this is going to lead to scarcity of land, lack of open spaces and amenities, increase in pollution level, and also the traffic congestions and roads will be jam-packed. So all the architects and planners need to find solution to it and move forward. They are all struggling to do it now, but a lot of research work is going on at the moment. Now we all know how neighborhood planning is. Basically, a neighborhood is a chunk of area wherein it's a self-sufficient unit with public amenities, shopping centers, healthcare, schools, residential, commercial. So everything accommodated in one zone. Now at the moment we have a horizontal spread of these structures. But in future, as we have discussed that the density is going to be very high in the urban centers, we won't have the luxury of such open spaces. Land will be scarce. So how to do it? So basically we have to devise a method wherein the footprint at the ground should be less and all these facilities should be stacked one above the other. This is a hypothetical section where you can see that rail transit, shopping centers, they are right at the base. Then you have healthcare, entertainment zones, again slightly higher. You can also have food production because it's better to have self-sufficient units in the future. Then community spaces, recreational spaces, all stacked at the center. Then we have offices and residential spaces, and on top we could have sky gardens and some play areas, etc. Now, taking the first topic of lack of open spaces and amenities. Now, as we don't have space, will not have space in the future on the ground, which will be occupied. So, how to have those green spaces and amenities? The only way is to place them in the sky-high building, intermixing it with some pedestrian bridges and pathways, and taking it up and down through vertical transportation, etc. These spaces could be linked with the other amenities which we are going to provide at various levels. In future, it's a good idea to have a self-sufficient unit, self-conserving of energy units. So why don't we have urban farming in the building itself? So some of the pockets, like you see in the section on the right side, some pockets could be dedicated to urban farming, which can be through technology. We can grow vegetables, we can have chicken farming, we can have various others, floral farming and all those things. So the building people, the society people, they can use the service of this and become more self-sufficient. This is a picture of basically a zone where those products which are cultivated are displayed so that people can take it to their homes and have organic food produced by themselves. Now, about the community spaces. Now, there are 3 zones marked in the section for community spaces. One is the base part, where we can have the shopping areas, which could be a common area for everyone, for the building as well as the neighboring areas. They can come and use those areas. Then in the center, we can have community spaces like your entertainment zones. Then we can have clubhouses, play areas, and recreational areas right in the center, as well as in the rooftop. Rooftop could be done in such a way that we have jogging tracks and the courts and play areas, etc. Now, as we have discussed that in future, because of these high density areas, the pollution level in the cities are going to increase. So, some scientific way has to be generated by which the pollution can be itself naturally reduced. Like there is a algae formation which is called microalgae, which basically is a very good material, organic material, which absorbs a lot of polluted air and purifies it. It also has a high density. It becomes dense during summers, and it becomes more transparent during the winters. So we can integrate it with the facade, with the masses of the panels, so that all the polluted air gets purified and only the fresh air comes in. Also, as discussed, since we don't have garden in future on the ground, so the garden has to be elevated along with the height of the building. Various levels could have various different kind of gardens integrated with the internal spaces or the activity zones. So this will give a lot of fresh oxygen, reduce in carbon dioxide, and make the atmosphere purer. So this is a building wherein, talking about the basic building, there are 4 cores in the 4 corners. And the central area is kept open for creating various levels of green zones in the building. Now, talking about transportation, at the moment, the roads are very congested. So, what is going to happen in the future? So, what we can propose is that if the modules of these buildings have transportation right at the base for as public transport systems like metros and rails and all. So people will start using this transportation. Right now it's inconvenient to to go to these zones, and through narrow lanes and congested areas, we have to go to the stations and take a train. Just imagine if it is right at the base, so it becomes very convenient for people to use it. So people will be encouraged to use public transport. Also, we can see in this section, at a height of the building, there are some connection of these cables. So in future, these pods could be used as a transportation in the sky, connecting various modules of these buildings. In the central areas could be used as wind turbines, because there is a void in between, so high wind velocity will be there. So we have to make this building self-generating of energy also in future, because even the energy requirement will be very high, and it will be very difficult to cope up with those high energy requirements. So the building could have their own turbines, wind turbines, which could in return create a lot of electricity for the building to be self-sufficient, towards being self-sufficient. Talking about solar and form of the buildings, how to reduce the solar impact. So this building form itself is such that all the zones which are having high radiation areas are very narrow, and the broader ones are basically the zones which are having less radiations. So the building form, the design itself could be done in such a way that we can avoid those kind of solar radiations, etc. And the fenestration, you can see in the right corner of this panel, that zones which are highly radiation zones are having smaller fenestrations, and zones where we have more cooler areas are having bigger fenestrations. The base of the buildings could be used as a public amenity areas, shopping areas, etc., where people can interact, enjoy, and so the top of these areas could again be a solar panel zones, and also photovoltaic umbrellas could be created so that they capture more of sunlight, which again can be used as an energy generation for the buildings. We are doing all this now also, but in a few buildings only. But in future, this becomes a must. Recycling of the waste and using it for energy, rainwater harvesting to be used for the landscaped areas which are spread out all over the building. So this should become a must in the future. Some futuristic technologies, like for example, in future, we could have extensive use of screen printed buildings, like because by doing this we get more precision in the kind of blocks that we prepare. They can be very difficult forms could be created in a very simple way through this technology, and less of human interface would be there in difficult areas. So this is one picture where it shows that the modules are being made somewhere else through screen printing technology, and they are transported here as a prefab kind of structures. Also, we could have cranes with screen printing machines mounted on it. So in situ also we could have construction happening through this technology. So no human is required in those because we are talking of super tall buildings of the future. So it will be difficult in those areas to work for the humans. So technology has to be used. This CASA is one building which is being conceptualized and designed for the future of screen printed building, a super tall building. Also, in future, we could use drones as a very effective tool for construction. Like, in fact, the drones could replace the cranes of the future for the super tall buildings. So we can carry the modules. In future, we could have more powerful drones which could carry heavy modules to the top. Also, difficult zones of facade could be, through these robotic technologies, we can have drones actually installing those facade panels in all these super tall buildings. So this is also one of the way the buildings could be constructed in future. In the extreme right, you can see one concept of a building wherein the facade itself has parking spaces for the drones. Now, this parking spaces also charging centers for the drones. So, I mean, the facade keeps on changing as per the stationing of the drones into the building. So, this could also become like a dynamic facade, ever-changing facade. Now, talking of some futuristic material innovations which are going on at the moment. Talking of timber, now as we know that the steel and cement, concrete produce from 5 to 8% of carbon footprint globally. So this is very harmful for our atmosphere. So, but on the other hand, wood basically it consumes and the carbon footprint. So I mean this is a very good material for the future. So a lot of innovation is happening, and engineers, they are trying to make as tall building as possible with the wood. Also, it's got very good insulation properties. So they can be with this thinner section, it can be used for the walls. In place of brick walls or concrete walls, a thinner section can be used and allow too much of heat to transfer in. So these are also materials for the future, reducing the HVAC loads, etc. Then ceramics. Basically, this is a ceramic fabric and hydrogels combined together, and it can absorb up to 400 times its capacity of water. So basically, this can be used in terrains where there is very harsh climate, high rainfall and humid areas. So these are some of the materials where innovation is happening, which can drastically change our thinking about the tall buildings of the future. Now, talking about some futuristic design innovations. Now people are talking about a rotating building. So basically, a rotating building helps in there is a wind turbine. There is a turbine at the base of the building. So a rotating building could help in power generation through these turbines. And this building basically rotates in 48 hours. It completes a full circle. So this is a fantastic idea where every block gets a 360 degree panoramic view, as well as this is helping in generation of energy for the future requirements. Now this is another example of a very futuristic idea, wherein as we discussed earlier, that the land will be very scarce. So amenities will be difficult to be placed on the ground. So basically, through a central core, we could have an elevated platform at the top. So basically, they will be like, and basically this central core acts as a structural element, and in the periphery, there are cables which are holding it together in a stiff manner. And water is getting sprayed, so this gives a feeling of a cloud and rainfall happening. And we could have, we could have floating platforms in the sky in the future for amenities, for having restaurants, play areas and theaters, etc. Now this is an example of a building in the water. Now this basically there we have high wind. So turbines could be used for generation, as well as the salt water. It is found that through osmosis we can generate energy through that. So these kind of technologies could be used for generation of power into a building, into a floating building in the sea. Now this is another example of a future building. Because of this density, as we have discussed, that a lot of pollution is happening all in the atmosphere. So basically, this is a kind of a central chimney, and the building plays all around it. So this central chimney, with its sophisticated technology, absorbs the polluted air from the atmosphere, and in this chimney it purifies it, and as it goes up, it keeps on generating those fresh oxygen. So this helps in through this shaft effect, this helps in purifying the atmospheric air. So this could be like the modules placed at different zones and used for purification of the atmosphere. Then, as in future, the trees could be like the dying trees because of pollution and all. So we could retain that heritage element of the tree to be from outside, and the internal shell could be taken off, and some modules are repeated to use the internal spaces. Or these kind of structures could come up in future, so you will feel that you are living in a green space in the ground, although these are not live trees. Yeah, that's it. So these are some of the ideas thrown to be thought about for the future. Thank you so much.